my mind a lot. Don't need no time watch. I don't know how I got you in my pocket spot. Yeah, that's babe, need you every day. You like my oxygen, make it seem like the barging down. Got my heart no barging in. From the bed to the floor to the couch. Might wake the neighbors up, break you in and break you out. In the end, we're gonna make it.
Deanna, welcome to another edition of All Time High.
Hello.
You know, right now we're flirting with numbers that aren't at the levels that we think they're going to be. I mean, Bitcoin continues to stay toward the top, but I'm kind of looking forward to some altcoin season. What about you?
I mean, Bitcoin is nice, but if we're talking about the ability to make money, obviously any takeoff in an altcoin with a lower market cap and the higher, that's how you make some money. So I like altcoin season too.
So yeah, little disclaimer here, do your own research, not financial advice, but when we find people who give alpha, we share alpha.
Yes.
And that is just coming from the growth mindset of helping people, communities, industries grow. So I found somebody out there. I've taken a lot of hell for actually mentioning this to a couple of my crypto bros, crypto friends, inclusive, not just guys, but gals.
Yeah.
There's this fella on X called Marty Party. Have you heard of him before?
No, but I love his name already. It's like, oh, Marty Party.
Yeah. Turns out Marty Party is a DJ. So let's just get that out on the table. As I said, not financial advice, do your own research. But he's done a very good job of identifying liquidation levels. And so I don't personally encourage people to leverage trades. I'm more of a hodl kind of person, like buy and hold. Do you work with leverage before? I know I have, but I don't often. How about you?
No.
So what he does is he identifies where the call options land out, where the leverage ends, and where the fresh money begins. And so what happens a lot of times before the crypto market takes off, it'll have what I call a V-shaped recovery. It'll torpedo down and then violently take off toward the top. And part of this is because of your friend, my friend, Binance, CZ.
Oh, yeah.
He's very good at identifying the setups. And so what he's identified here for Bitcoin as an example is it looks like things will torpedo down to 101 and back up to 110. So he sets orders lower, catching the thing, be careful, don't try to catch a falling knife. But these numbers, these colors represent liquidation levels. And so the shorts and the longs all play together with Bitcoin. Not only has he done it there, but I believe he's done this for, look at this. The top blue end. I mean, he's helping you with a game plan.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. And so I gave you the Bitcoin one. If you want to go back, check it out. You've got the different colors, the different lines. He also has Solana in here. He's got Ethereum. He's got game plans for all kinds of stuff. So at any rate, I'll stop sharing that particular screen. There's a lot going on in my X account.
I think it's important to make a note on that. For those of you who have not played with altcoins, there's a few things you have to be careful of. We always talk about knowing the project, identifying scams. You should know the team. What is the market it's addressing? We've never really talked about liquidation or liquidity. And I think that's an important part because there's times that you can buy a coin and you can hold on and hold on and hold on. You hodl, right? But at some point, if that coin goes downhill and there's no liquidity, you will not get your money back out. So, it's kind of a fine line to walk. But just know that once those levels start happening, you could get locked in. And that's not necessarily, sometimes taking a little loss is better than a complete loss.
Yeah. And there's the V-shaped recovery and then what I'll call the A-shaped loss, right? The inverse. And what happens, people who've accumulated some of these coins over time will go out and try to keep the coins because the adrenaline that takes you up is quite compelling, right? Yeah. You've been there a couple times, a few times.
Oh yeah.
And you've held on too long before too. I know I have. Yes, no, maybe so. Yeah.
Well, I don't want to say too many times, but definitely a few times. I mean, I've been pretty good at timing it, I think, for the most part for what I've done, but I have held, I mean, sometimes you just get I think it goes with any investment. Don't get emotionally attached.
Yes.
XRP. Sorry. Don't get emotionally attached because those emotions are literally going to take you for a ride. So
yeah, Deanna, I mean, I would just say to that I wouldn't want to be like, put all my eggs in one basket. That could be a maximum disaster, a maxi disaster. You just don't want to do that. You probably want to be more diversified, have more optionality out there. But in either case, if you found success with one of your investments, some people will put the money out there and try to take a loan against those dollars. But you have to be very careful and read the fine print, because oftentimes they have liquidation events, to your point, where it says that you have a percentage of your total loan that you're willing to stake as collateral if the price goes down. And so that price might go down for a second, for a minute. You watch some of these dips and rips. They're very quick. They're very fast. They're almost, to me, calculated, premeditated. And they're meant to, and this is what Marty Party does. He identifies where the wipeout is. And just like a wave, just like a crash out, just like a wipeout, they'll take all your money and there are no apologies. It happened, right? It said if it reached this level, you would be liquidated. And so you got liquidated at the lowest possible level. And the value of what you had as an asset just got turned into cash, we'll say dollars in this case. And then the thing went right back up. It was only down for a minute and back up for the next. But what he is pointing out, and I think it's incredibly valuable for our listeners and people to know, is that's the game that some of these unregulated exchanges are playing. Yeah,
100%. And if you miss one opportunity, if you're paying attention to the market, there's going to be another opportunity. So don't, as long as you don't put too much in one thing, you don't lose too much, don't go get crazy, but you put a little money in, you try it, you kind of play around with it, get a feel for it. This is not financial advice. This is practical entertainment
experience. Yeah. It's an entertainment only. This is entertainment only.
Entertainment only. But get comfortable with it and get in there and play around with it. There's tons of opportunity. I mean, you talk about arbitrage where you can buy Bitcoin at one price on one exchange and turn around and sell it on another exchange for another price. That's called arbitrage. Totally legal, not against the law. You just buy here, sell here, and you can make money on it. So when you start learning these little things, which is hopefully the tools that we're going to enable you guys with, you can start playing around and making some money, which is great.
Yes, it's a good experience. Now, part of what's going on right now, there are changes in the industry. We've talked on a previous episode about your good friend and my former client, Perry Ann, who has moved on. Cody Carbone is now the CEO of the Digital Chamber. Kristen Smith, somebody you also likely know, who I've met before with the Blockchain Association. You may have even interviewed her in a previous.
Actually, I think I did.
I'm pretty sure you did.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did too.
And then to connect the dots completely, she has moved on. She's taken a job with Solana's privately held coin.
Oh, good for
They do
her.
quite well.
Yeah.
She's going to continue to do quite well, just as Perry Ann continues to do quite well. But her replacement is no other than former CFTC Commissioner Summer Mersinger, who I had the opportunity to interview at one of the blockchain councils. Let's see another interview, a more current one though, that talks about, I love what Bloomberg did. They were very friendly at the beginning, but then they got to we're going to ask you the tough question.
Oh, I love it when they do that. And while you're loading that up, I'm just going to tell everybody, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button so that you can at least go back and watch some of these episodes we were talking about.
Yes. And if, you can also hit the like, you can hit subscribe. And these episodes are typically 15 to 20 minutes. So one thing to consider is to watch them at 2x. I mean, there's always that, right? You could be 5 minutes and blah, 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 blah. So this is going to be a little fast with Summer, but check out what happens. 5 minutes of pleasantry, and then they hit her with this tough one.
That says that since the early days of the re-election campaign, the president has essentially doubled his net worth, more than doubled it to $5.4 billion. More than $500 million of that, according to our reporting, comes from sales of just one of his crypto ventures, not to mention the meme coins, the Trump digital trading cards. There are critics out there who say that he's too close and too involved with the crypto industry. They're worried about pay to play. What do you say?
I worry that this distracts from the arguments that we need to be focused on right now. It's time for the U.S. to unlock the economic power of the crypto markets in the United States. It's time to bring this trading activity onshore. In order to do that, we do need things like the stablecoin legislation that's moving through the Senate. We do need to have a market structure bill, and that needs to be our focus right now. So I think some of this just becomes a distraction from what is really the most important important thing here, which is providing a regulatory framework so that we can have these markets onshore and in a space where U.S. retail customers can access these markets in a safe space with the proper regulatory oversight.
Just to clarify, are you saying that the president's involvement in the industry is a distraction, or the critics are a distraction?
I'm saying the critics are using it as a distraction away from what really needs to get done, and I think that's unfortunate.
Ooh, there's a lot there.
Yeah, there was a lot. I mean, kudos to her. She did a good job answering it and kind of sidestepping that landmine a little bit.
Yeah, but I think too, I noticed he gave her the out at the end. He asked her if it was the critics or it was the president that was in the way.
Oh, well, maybe just making sure nobody misunderstood.
Yeah, a little more finesse. It sounded more like a paid spot maybe than an earned media spot. Is that possible?
But okay, so what is the difference between Trump doing things with crypto and Congress buying stocks? Like, everybody's making laws that affect all of these things. So I don't understand the difference,
I'll give it to you though. I think it's that the regulatory oversight or lack thereof for stocks is already, there's governance. There is nothing there. Are you going to tell me that? But there are exchanges, there are financial institutions. I mean, how many times did she say onshore there? Probably 2 or 3 times.
Oh, yeah.
And so the issue isn't, to me right now in the space, that it's that it's in other places. Like, the illegitimacy of it is in other places. And to make it legitimate because of the USA's position as a world power, you do need to bring it onshore. You do need to have some rules of the road. And I think people, you tell me, is he working the system? He doubled his net worth.
Of course he
okay.
is. Like,
okay.
But,
is that good for the greater good?
Listen, I can't say that I personally know him, but I tell me any person who doesn't work the system in their benefit. You know what I mean? It's enabled. It's in our DNA. We take care of ourselves. We look out for ourselves, especially if you're a wealthy, powerful person. That tends to be the top of your DNA. So of course, will he make it fair for everybody else? It feels like it. Feels like that's the way that it's going to go. It feels like it's headed that way. I don't know. Honestly, I don't, because I'm not there, so I don't know. But it'll be fun to see how it all plays out.
Now, you were at the Bitcoin conference a few weeks back. Did you see or speak with either of the Trumps? Because I heard one of them talk about the idea that they were debanked. Have you heard that speech, that story?
I did, actually. It was Eric, right? That I think
yes,
was talking about
I believe
them
that's correct.
debanked, and I was like, "Hey, me too. I was there. Like, I feel your pain." And I'm like a little person, but I got you.
Yeah.
It was a good story. So here's the interesting thing. You now have a family in power that has gone through the dark side of the U.S., right?
Okay.
Like, so,
for sure. Yeah.
So are they going to put things in place to make sure that doesn't happen to other people? You know what I mean? Or like, do they level the playing field now so that those things aren't as easy to do anymore? Like, I really think it's interesting to see what they do with it. But there's nothing that from going to jail, from being debanked, from being kicked out of restaurants, from from being shot at, like, you name it. And these people have gone through it and they're still there thriving. It's crazy.
Well, and add to it, I mean, part of this, like, so you're in at the family level, and I respect it. And everything you said is absolutely on point and dialed in for sound. I look at this thing and I look at it a little bit more. I look at it there, but then I zoom out and I look at it from Ray Dalio's perspective. And this whole thing about the stablecoin definitely, to me, relates to the status of USA as world reserve currency, the US dollar as world reserve currency. And so it would seem like, to me, the easiest thing for politicians to get out of their way on would be the establishment of this stablecoin legislation.
Yeah.
My goodness, though, this has been, so let's just not take the last 60 days. This has been 4, 5, 6. I mean, you tell me. I know I've heard it since 2020. How long have you heard them talking about this is going to come?
2018.
Since 2018.
Since the first, I feel like the first working group I was a part of was in 2018 through the Chamber of Digital Commerce for the stable dollar, for the stable coin, stable dollar coin.
Yeah. And
which is not, it's not a coin. It's not considered a stable dollar. It's considered the dollar.
Yeah. And it's funny, like, I think like whoever's in charge, I'm not sure who, right? Like, I'm not there's not one person. Okay.
Right.
So there's some,
Supposed to be.
well, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Gotcha.
Another,
It's a whole another episode. Yeah.
So, but as I look at it, they like let one through the gate. They let Coinbase through last time, right?
Yeah.
And Coinbase, and then they like kind of like retrench and make sure they didn't give up too much power, too much control, too much whatever.
Yeah.
And now they let another one through the gate, right? And it's how can you give Circle the IPO without subsequently giving them the legislation?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, you think it would go on Circle? You think the stable dollar would be the Circle coin?
Well, it's one of many.
Yeah.
Like, I think at the end of the day, banks are going to start printing money digitally to soak up a lot of the treasury debt bond situations. I mean, who better than the Fed to tell the banks that you need to go buy some of these short dated bonds and keep them on your books until we get to a more favorable position to kick that can down the road. I mean, that opens up that door to infinity and beyond.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I know. It's so much.
And we can't even get I mean, did you see, I know I'm too close to this, but I don't care anymore. I'm just sharing.
Go for
the
it.
XRP deal where the attorneys went back to the judge and she rejected their request to dismiss the case and its findings. So they,
oh really?
Oh yeah. SEC took them to court. They were tied up in court for, let's call it 4 years. And when the regime change occurred, new SEC commissioners came in, Gary Gensler's out, and they asked, hey, can we forget about everything that you ruled on? And she basically sent them a note. Both sides agreed, the new regime, the old regime. And she came back and said, procedurally, my decision has already been rendered. Procedurally, this sits in the Court of Appeals. So just to be clear, you asked the wrong judge, right? Because my decision has been made. You need to ask the Court of Appeals to send the jurisdiction back to me so that I could then potentially reverse the position. So she's basically saying, y'all made me work really hard for 4 years on this. I rendered a bulletproof decision and you took it to appeals. And now you want to act like we're going to let it all go. So here we are, June of 2025, and we're still hanging on to this lawsuit.
Yeah. I mean, how do you mess up and send it to the wrong court? Like, what lawyer didn't know what court it was supposed to go to? You know what I mean?
I'll add to that. They now have waited 3 weeks to file the subsequent request. I think they thought that the judge was going to be like, oh, they decide. You realize up until the minute that she issued her ruling, they could have done exactly that. They could have reached an agreement on their own.
Yeah.
But since she issued her ruling, and I mean, I'm not a judge, but I'd be insulted if you appealed my ruling. I'd be a little upset.
Yeah.
Not cool.
Of course.
Not cool. I didn't go too far. And so Ripple doesn't want the injunction on institutional sales to be part of that ruling. So they're trying to rescind that. And the SEC is saying, yeah, sure, we don't care. Like, party on, Wayne, party on, Garth.
You dated yourself there.
I did.
All the young kids are like, I don't know what that is.
What's Wayne's World? No. I'll do something cool later. Caitlin Clark. She's cool. There you go. I'm back in good stead. Done. Any thoughts on, I mean, we're so close yet so far.
You know, I would think of what a chain would have to do. I think this is part of the reason why crypto hasn't been adopted yet, is what chain could handle some of this stuff? Like, there's inherent flaws in all of it, right? Bitcoin was the first prototype of this technology. We've come up with many iterations of it, but I don't think we've found that solid jackpot yet, right? Maybe when we do and some of this gets cleaned up a little bit, it'll be easier to write legislation and like make some of these rules around it, but you're trying to apply old concepts to new technology, which doesn't really, you know what I mean? Like, it's just kind of all over the place. So
I think we're set up.
Go ahead.
No. We're set up to be in this place now because the rules no longer apply.
Yeah.
for a while it was regulation by enforcement. And so
Right.
we can't get a stablecoin deal through. That's clean. That's easy. That's for the greater good. And so can you imagine all the litany and nuance of like traded exchanges? Oh my gosh. And I think Mersinger gets it, where she's saying it's the offshore onshore thing. There is a huge, so if we tie this whole episode together, there's the liquidation on these V-shaped recoveries and these A-shaped fallouts. And you know why? It's because the offshore exchanges know how to make all the money. And so that's why it's buyer beware. There's a lot of risk in this space. If you know what you're doing and you can hodl the liquidity, you'll be okay over time. But until this gets onshore, it's anybody's game.
Yep. It's up for grabs. So be careful out there. Know who you're dealing with.
And if there aren't, the famous Diana line, if there aren't any people,
don't do it.
Don't
if I
do
can't
it.
reach out to somebody, I'm out. Especially when it comes to your money. I want to be able to call somebody and be like, where's my money?
Where's my money? Where's my money? Well, we'll tell you where the money is on the next episode of All Time High. Thanks, Deanna. Hope you have a good one.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
You on my mind a lot. Don't need no time watch. I don't know how I got you in my